Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Conductors Collective at the TVO Network. My name is Lina Gonzalez Granados.
And I'm Kensho Watanabe, and we are the Conductors Collective. Today, we are really thrilled to present Carlo Montanaro, faculty on the Hart Institute for Women Conductors for the past 4 seasons, and also was the guest conductor in the 17-18 season of the Dallas Opera for Traviata, and also now the founder of Opera Webinar, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But Carlo, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's a big pleasure. I'm a fan of your amazing platform. Really, you're doing a great job. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So, Carlo, during this pandemic, there's been such a wonderful upswing of resources for conductors, and many of them talk about how a conductor studies a score in terms of phrasing or structure or language or etc. But not many people are talking about the process of understanding the characters in opera and how one develops a concept of that role through that study. Can you tell us a little bit about your approach or your process to this particular aspect of studying an operatic score?
Yeah, I mean, what I think anyway is like the more information that you have is the better, right? So I'm very happy that we have this, I don't know, people that organize all these things, and this is really helpful for everybody. What I'm trying to do with this new project, that is something that I had in mind for many years, is like to give somehow a method to approach the study of the opera. And absolutely, the first step is anyway understanding the libretto, understanding the character, understand the mood of the opera. But this is something normal, you know. But how to develop our ideas with our team, because opera is a team. I mean, for me, everything is a team. Also, the symphonic thing is a team. I mean, you have to build with the musician and the artist that you have in front of you a strong relationship, because you have to motivate them to do what you think, you know. They have their idea, you have your idea. Sometimes you have to compromise on something, but how to approach these things, how to talk with artists, how to develop a proper interpretation. And what is a proper interpretation? I don't know, but let's say somehow I try also to give the Italian way. You can say like this, I'm Italian, so, but you know, the way of singing, the line of the singing, and basically because sometimes it's hard, for example, for foreigner people, like for me when I study German opera, or when I study French opera, to really understand the deep meaning of every word. And also for the Italian libretto, for sure I'm lucky because I'm Italian, I speak the language, but still these things, it's very hard to find the time to really go deep on these things. So bringing from the libretto, from the text, a proper interpretation, to put this interpretation in the music and to convince our artists that are in front of us, or to convince, to tell them our mind process, that brought us to build this interpretation. So the terminology, or, you know, and also this little secret that I was telling you guys before, I want to give all the, maybe not all, I'm going to say 10% for me, because otherwise, you know, but anyway, the things that you're going to discover in your career. For example, I conducted maybe 100 times Traviata, so, but every time is still something new. And all the little mistakes that I did, I corrected, and so finally, let's say, finally I can approach the score somehow relaxed, you know what I mean? Like, I know.
So in developing these roles, let's say, you know, you said going from the libretto, and then how do you kind of, you know, because of course libretto is first and foremost the way to understanding the roles, but do you then start connecting the libretto with certain musical passages or motifs, and how do you start developing your concept of what signifies a character, what signifies an emotion?
Yeah, basically, you know, in Verdi, I think in all the opera, but let's talk about Verdi, for example. Let's talk about Traviata, this is the next thing. But the real emotion that are inside the character. The emotional means the soul, you know, of the character is in the music. The artists, they express the text, they express the way to say the text, the emotion. But what's really happening inside, you have a boom, 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 boom. I don't know, you know, or some other. Maybe this is classical, rhythmical for the cabaletta, for, you know, these things are the deep emotion of the character. So how you mix these things, it makes no sense if you are talking with a warrior and you make an accompanimento. And I'm sorry, I use this word to let the people understand, but in Verdi, there's no accompanimento, there's only music, okay? Because of this meaning. Even if you have one pizzicato, this pizzicato has to be done in a certain way that underlines the deep emotion of the character in that moment. So if you play a cabaletta, makes no sense, because if this guy is super angry, you know, you have to support this. And then there are many ways, okay? I'm telling my ways, I respect everything. But somehow, for me, sometimes it sounds wrong or it feels wrong because in the action of the moment, or I miss, I don't know, I will miss vibrato or emotion in the section of the second violin, or, you know, this, if we are talking about something sad or about something, you know. So I'm talking very superficial now, because we could stay 6 hours on this subject. But the process is this: I start from the libretto to understand the plot. You connect to the music. You build your movie in your head. This is so important. You have to build your interpretation, but also somehow your staging. Then it will be different, for sure. But you build your staging, you build your emotion, you're acting like a movie director, you know. You have your plot and you go through the scene and you feel this emotion. And then you bring there. So when you talk with the artist and you're so deep convinced in what's in your mind, and you have this movie and you want to hear this movie, people get this feeling and they say, wow, I mean, okay. But if you approach a little bit superficial, like I don't know the text very well, or I don't know, singing the role is very important. I suggest really for everybody who's interested in opera and really want to go forward, you have to sing all the role. You have to know at least how to sing all the role, okay? Pronunciation of the text, it's hard if you don't know the language, it's fine. But at least you must understand, you know, what you're saying. In this way, with knowledge, you can share your knowledge with other artists. And then the beauty of this opera is to have a musical rehearsal when all these ideas come through. And maybe, I used to say that opera is like a sculpture. You know, a sculpture is a sculpture. David Michelangelo, it's a sculpture. How you put the light on this sculpture is completely changed the appearance of the sculpture. But the sculpture is the sculpture. You know? So Traviata is Traviata, but how we put our light on Traviata, it means different light interpretation, different light emotion, different way to say this word or the other word. This brings completely another opera, but it's still Traviata. You know? So many times I reach a point that, oh, this I never thought about like this with a singer or with someone. And it's nice to find also new ways, you know.
I love that, Carlo, because I honestly think that when you go deeper in that sense, then music speaks and just lights up in a different way. And it's funny, it's more fun and more exciting to study it instead of just something that is so abstract, like notes on a paper. This is like actually making a score come to life and make sure that everything like takes like a different light. So I want to pivot a little bit because you mentioned something really interesting about music rehearsals. And you are a great mentor for young conductors, myself included,
Yes.
which you know that I love you. And I want to ask you, what do you think are the strategies to approach a singer who has a way more experience than a young conductor to bring these details into light and come into an agreement that we are all happy with, you know? And let
Yeah.
them shine. I mean, we are there to accompany them and to help them make the best out of themselves. But how can we create this dialogue?
I would say, first of all, sorry, Lina, but company is right, but I would say more supporting.
Yeah, supporting. Yeah, supportive
It's
role. I
completely
agree.
different approach because we are in the same
My
level.
mistake.
But accompaniment, though, in this way of thinking, yes, for sure.
Yeah,
It's
no,
the same for,
accompany the person,
no,
not
no,
the
I
music.
understand.
Yeah,
It's just to underline another term that it's more interesting to think that I'm supporting the
absolutely.
singer, bring her like by hands, you know. So anyway,
Mhm.
there are two ways for me. You can have like, for example, two scenarios, very generous talking. Like scenario that you have an experienced singer or young singer that never sang this opera. And in this case, and then I'll go deep a little bit later, you must have for sure your ideas, okay? Because a lot of time people can be, Maestro, I never sang this opera. I'm really ready. I'm so happy that we can work together. Please tell me everything. Great. So you give your idea, but try to anyway push the limit that this artist has to give her or his proper interpretation, because otherwise it's just something attached to the skin that doesn't go down, you know.
Hmm.
Because I used to say sometimes on purpose, like, give me something, and the singer said, what do you mean? I don't know, you know, give me something, I need something. On purpose, I know what I mean, but you know, I want them not to talk with my mouth, but to talk with their brain, you know, to their interpretation. But if they don't know, you know, it's hard. You never did an opera. Traviata, for example, is enormous role for a soprano. So I try to give my idea, to give a line, and during the process of the opera, usually it's like 3 weeks working, you know, day by day. You see that the character develop. You can keep on giving suggestion. Okay, this is one scenario, very fun. Another scenario, when you have a very experienced artist, an amazing artist. First of all, listen. You never did the opera. You have I did Traviata with Mariella De Via, and
Wow.
the first musical rehearsal was, please sing for me, and thank you very much for singing for me. You know, but she was amazing. No, 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 no. Tell me something, but please sing. But then we start discussing a little bit. But you know, when you had the luck anyway to work with more experienced people, first big suggestion is trust them. Okay. Then, if your ideas is completely different, then start the process of negotiation. Okay, like you give something and you lose something. You know, it's it's not to win or lose. We have to win all together. You know, because we are together on stage. I'm not. I don't want to talk about extreme situation that no, no, I'm right. No, I'm right. This, you know how we end. You know, it's not. It ends only one way. Somebody wins, somebody loses. So unfortunately, at one point, you have to decide if you want to go your way or if you want to open yourself. But generally speaking, trust the people that are more experienced. Understand why. Try to understand why they're doing this, and don't be afraid to ask. I'm sorry, madam, you're taking a breath here, or just, can you tell me why? And maybe you didn't like it, but then when you hear why, and that's the thing that you should do. Can you make this ritardando because of this, of this, of this, of this, of this, of this? I don't like to say, slower, faster. Why? So if you give a meaning, if you give an idea of your interpretation, if you give a reason in the text, in the music, in the big line, people are more willing. Okay, there's a reason behind it. It's not because you want faster or you want slower, you know. For
Right. So
example,
that
I'm sorry, please go, Christian.
no, I was just going to say it goes back to your point of having an intention behind everything, right? That
Yes,
and
because
that comes from the score study.
yeah, I like Undi Felice a little faster than usually. Not usually. That some singers they like Undi Pam Pam Felice. Yeah, but for me it can be two ways. This is more dreamy and oh my God. But for me, he's young. He wanna tell her why and when he loved her immediately, and he has this, I saw you, oh my God. So I feel this, it doesn't need to be fast, but I need this, you know? So when a singer has another idea, we have to find this compromise. And it doesn't, I don't, nothing is wrong, nothing is right. I didn't speak to Verdi, you know? I didn't talk to Verdi, and nobody talked to Verdi. But from what we have on the score, I try to give, my decision has to be justified there. You know?
I have a follow-up question to that, because as because you've conducted operas hundreds of times, that between performances, things will change.
Absolutely.
And I'm wondering, my question is, has your concept or interpretation of something changed because of something that happened spontaneously on stage and has kind of changed how you think about a certain scene or a certain aria?
You know, that's the magic of opera. Sometimes I'm waiting for this because it makes every night, first of all, a challenge, and I don't know, spiritual something like, you know, that the spirit of Verdi, I don't know. But, you know, you have to, opera is, when you have 6 singers, 8 singers, 2 chorus, or even the orchestra, we wake up every day differently, mentally, emotionally, and you don't sleep good, you're tired, your tempo will be different than when you come and you have a good news half an hour before the performance, you come in like this, you know. And so the same happened with the singer. You know, every night is different because of physiological and practical things. And also maybe because that night, this soprano, this tenor, you want to say something different. Maybe that night I would like to have, I don't know, I feel more, and I take a touch less. It's really experience, and it's really how to deal with this. Be ready, be prepared, and open-minded, because in opera you fix something and the next day is completely different. You have 8 performances, maybe you have 2 casts, 3 casts. You got a soprano got ill, you got to jump in 2 hours before a performance. So you cannot tell or your interpretation to this new soprano. You choose 2 points. Madam, listen, sorry, can you look at me here and here? And then let's enjoy. Please don't stress the singer before the performance. Oh, be careful here, be careful there, be careful there. This is the job to do in the general rehearsal. In the first opening night is like, let's have fun. If there is a really important spot that was always wrong, remember that one, right? Let's have fun. Because, you know, we are in the boat together.
Absolutely. Carlo, one last question. I'm so fascinated. I think we could go like hours and hours to talk about this, and I'm sure we will. But I really want the audience to know about the amazing things that you're doing with the Opera webinar, and especially with the singer, the idea if you want to share about role development with singers and how you can help them.
So I will try to keep it short. So basically is what we are doing here is I'm trying to help all the students or conductor, even in Korea, that they are great symphonic conductor, but never approach the opera, to build a repertoire, okay? Because sometimes debut is like you got a call 1 week before or 5 days before, no rehearsal. That's what happened to me. My debut was 1 week before in Trovatore, no rehearsal, directly on stage in Stuttgart. So if you have a repertoire, you can trust yourself and go. In 1 week, you don't know the opera, is very hard. And it's a shame to lose an opportunity, big opportunity, okay? So I'm trying to go through all the most important opera. I would like to do all, but let's see, it's a long project. It's not 1 week or 2 month project. I want to keep it even for years, okay? The last final goal is, after all this crazy moment are finished, to build a real academy live, and even, I don't know, 1.5 years from now, I don't know, real master classes together with the orchestra, trying this thing that we study. So what we do, we go bar by bar through all the opera, from the first part till the end, in a way that it's both approach, practical and philosophical, let's say. Practical means to solve all the things that students stay there, is in 4, is in 2, will it work in 2, will it work in 4? And we know how long is this process because I stay there. You can decide, I don't know, I try in 2, then the first rehearsal is a mess. Oh my God, so what do you do? The next rehearsal you're doing 4, and then the orchestra, oh my God, it's 2 or 4 mess, what do you want to do? You know? So I help to give all the indication, first of all, that you practically, because you must know the opera here, but when you're in front of the orchestra, you have to know the opera here. You can talk for 10 hours that you're the best conductor in the world. When you give an upbeat or you give a tempo changing and it's a mess, this, right? So, sorry, can I finish or no?
Please, please, please.
And then we go deep, as Kensho said, about the importance of the libretto, the importance of the musical rehearsal, how to approach the musical rehearsal, how to deal with singer, terminology, what I've experienced in my career in 100 performances of Traviata, every cast different question, different ask, different need. And we're doing Traviata, we're doing La Traviata, La Bohème, and Lucia di Lammermoor. And the next maybe are going to do Rigoletto, Madama Butterfly, maybe or Tosca, and then Barber Civil. It's a long process, you know. But I'm very happy that I had an amazing feedback. We have more than 20 students active and student colleagues active. And I'm very, very happy to do this. And thank you guys for this opportunity.
Thank you, Carlo, for being here with us. We feel really privileged to count on your experience and your generosity because it's really important to get the right instruction and you're giving it to us. So thank you so much for being here today to share your knowledge. And I hope to see you in the next episode of TDO.
Yes, absolutely. I cannot wait.
Thank you, Carlo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Take care.